There is a small city tucked in the foothills of Southern California that has puzzled scientists, cardiologists, and longevity researchers for decades. Not because of anything in the water, not because of the altitude, and not because of any special medical technology, but because the people who live there simply do not die on schedule. Loma Linda, California, is one of only 5 places on the entire planet officially designated as a blue zone, a region where people live measurably, statistically, and remarkably longer than the rest of the world. The average resident there outlives the average American by nearly 10 years, some by 15, some by more. And among the physicians who have spent their lives studying and practicing in that community, there is one figure who keeps coming up in the research. I'm a doctor who has practiced medicine for over 6 decades, who at 96 years old still rises early, still walks without assistance, still maintains a clear and precise mind, and who has not had a significant illness in 30 years. When researchers asked him what he eats every single morning without exception, he did not describe a complicated supplement protocol. He did not name an expensive superfood. He pointed to something humble, something most people already own, something that has been sitting in kitchens for centuries. Stay with us until the end of this, because what he eats is only half the answer. The other half, the part most people never hear about, is the specific combination and the specific reason it works. And by the time this is finished, you will understand your own biology in a way that most doctors never explain to their patients. But before we go any further, if this is the kind of conversation that matters to you, real science, real longevity, real answers, please subscribe to this channel, like this video, and make sure the notification bell is activated. There are discoveries in this space that most people will never come across, and we want to make sure you are not one of them. Now, Loma Linda's longevity is not an accident, and it is not a mystery. It is a pattern. Researchers from the National Geographic Society spent years documenting the habits of blue zone populations around the world, and what they found in Loma Linda was striking even compared to the other 4 zones. The residents there share a cluster of behaviors around food, rest, community, and purpose. But inside that cluster, there is one dietary habit that consistently appears in the people who live the longest and stay the healthiest the latest into life. They eat plants, not occasionally, not as a side dish, as the overwhelming foundation of every meal. But here is what the headline never captures, and what this doctor understood long before the research caught up with him. It is not simply that they eat plants. It is which plants, in what combination, and at what time of day. Because the human body does not extract nutrition uniformly across a 24-hour cycle. The morning, specifically, is when your digestive enzymes are most active, when your gut lining is most prepared to absorb what you give it, and when what you consume sets the biochemical tone for everything your body does in the hours that follow. This doctor, who we will call Dr. E, as he has requested privacy, despite being a figure of considerable study, begins every single morning with the same meal. It takes him less than 10 minutes to prepare. It costs less than $2. And it contains a combination of compounds that modern research has only recently begun to fully understand. He eats a bowl of cooked oats topped with walnuts and blueberries, alongside a small glass of warm water with freshly squeezed lemon. Every morning. For decades. Now, before you move on, before your mind says you have heard this before, stay with us, because the reason this works is not what most people think, and the mechanism is not simple. It is elegant. Let us start with the oats, because this is where most people underestimate what they are eating. Oats contain a specific type of soluble fiber called beta-glucan. Beta-glucan is not just roughage. It is a biologically active compound that, when it enters the digestive tract, forms a thick, gel-like substance that does several things simultaneously. First, it slows the absorption of glucose into the bloodstream. This is not a small effect. A study published in the European Journal of Clinical Nutrition found that consuming 3 grams of beta-glucan daily, the amount found in roughly 1.5 cups of cooked oats, reduced post-meal blood sugar spikes by up to 50% in healthy adults. 50%. And why does this matter? Because every time blood sugar spikes and then crashes, it triggers an inflammatory response throughout the body. Year after year, decade after decade, I know that repeated inflammation is one of the primary drivers of what we call accelerated aging, the kind that damages blood vessels, degrades cognitive function, and wears down the immune system from the inside. Second, beta-glucan actively feeds the beneficial bacteria in your gut. The gut microbiome has been one of the most transformative areas of medical research in the last 20 years. We now understand that the diversity and health of the bacterial community living in your intestines directly influences your immune function, your mood, your metabolic rate, and your vulnerability to chronic disease. Beta-glucan acts as a prebiotic. It is literally food for the organisms that keep your immune system calibrated. The American Journal of Clinical Nutrition published research showing that consistent oat consumption measurably increases populations of lactobacillus and bifidobacterium, 2 bacterial strains consistently associated with lower rates of inflammatory disease. Third, and this is the part that most nutrition conversations skip, beta-glucan has been shown to reduce LDL cholesterol, specifically the small dense particles that lodge inside arterial walls and initiate atherosclerosis. The FDA has recognized this effect. It is not a wellness claim. It is established enough that food manufacturers are permitted to state it on packaging by federal law. 1 ingredient. 3 simultaneous mechanisms. Every morning. Now we come to the walnuts, and this is where something remarkable happens. Walnuts are the only commonly consumed nut with a significant concentration of alpha-linolenic acid, which is the plant-based form of omega-3 fatty acid. A single 1-ounce serving, roughly a small handful, contains 2.5 grams of alpha-linolenic acid. That number matters because research from the Nurses' Health Study, one of the longest-running nutritional studies in American history, found that higher alpha-linolenic acid intake was associated with a 30% reduction in cardiovascular disease risk over time. But beyond the omega-3 content, walnuts contain a compound called L-arginine, which gut bacteria convert into a substance called urolithin A. And urolithin A is something researchers are now calling a mitochondrial rejuvenator. It stimulates a process called mitophagy, which is the body's built-in mechanism for clearing out damaged, dysfunctional mitochondria and replacing them with healthy ones. Think of your mitochondria as the power plants inside every cell in your body. As they age and accumulate damage, they become less efficient. They produce less energy. They generate more cellular waste. Urolithin A essentially initiates a cleanup and renewal cycle inside those power plants. A clinical study published in Nature Metabolism found that urolithin supplementation improved muscle endurance in older adults, direct evidence that the mitochondrial renewal is biologically real and measurably beneficial. And walnuts do one more thing that connects directly to the brain. The polyunsaturated fats in walnuts have been shown to reduce neuroinflammation, the chronic low-grade inflammation of brain tissue that is now understood to be an early driver of cognitive decline. A study from UCLA found that adults who consumed walnuts regularly scored significantly higher on cognitive function tests compared to non-consumers, even after controlling for other lifestyle factors. A handful of walnuts, on top of oats, every morning. And then there are the blueberries. And here the science becomes almost difficult to believe, except that it has been replicated across dozens of independent research institutions. Blueberries contain one of the highest concentrations of anthocyanins of any food on Earth. Anthocyanins are the pigments that give blueberries their deep blue-purple color. and they are among the most potent antioxidants ever measured in a whole food. But calling them antioxidants undersells what they actually do, because their mechanism goes far deeper than simply neutralizing free radicals. Anthocyanins cross the blood-brain barrier. This is unusual. Most large molecules cannot make this crossing, but anthocyanins are small enough and structured correctly to pass through the protective membrane that separates the bloodstream from the brain. And once inside, they concentrate in the hippocampus, which is the region responsible for memory formation and spatial navigation. Research from the University of Cincinnati demonstrated that older adults with early signs of cognitive decline who consumed wild blueberry juice daily for 16 weeks showed measurable improvements in memory performance and learning accuracy on standardized tests. The control group, consuming a placebo, showed continued decline. Beyond the brain, anthocyanins have been shown to improve endothelial function, the health and flexibility of the inner lining of blood vessels. Stiff, inflamed endothelial cells are the precondition for high blood pressure, arterial plaque, and reduced circulation. Blueberries actively counteract this stiffening process. A study in the Journal of the Academy of Nutrition and Dietetics found that daily blueberry consumption over 8 weeks reduced systolic blood pressure by an average of 5 to 6 points in adults with elevated readings, a reduction comparable to the effect of some pharmaceutical interventions achieved through a single whole food, half a cup of blueberries, on oats and walnuts every morning, and now the warm lemon water, which is perhaps the simplest part and yet the most chronobiologically intelligent. When you wake up, your body has been in a fasting state for 7 to 9 hours. Your stomach acid has settled. Your digestive enzymes are primed but not yet active. And your liver, which has been quietly processing metabolic waste throughout the night, is ready to flush. Warm water with fresh lemon juice does 3 things in this window that cold water or no water simply cannot replicate. The warmth stimulates peristalsis, the wave-like muscular contractions of the digestive tract, preparing the system to receive and process the meal that follows. Lemon juice provides a small but meaningful dose of vitamin C, which is water-soluble and depleted overnight, and which serves as a cofactor in the synthesis of collagen, carnitine, and neurotransmitters. And the citric acid in fresh lemon juice has been shown to enhance the absorption of non-heme iron, the form of iron found in plant foods, by up to 67% when consumed alongside them, according to research from the American Journal of Clinical Nutrition. That last point matters particularly for people eating a plant-forward diet. The iron in plants is harder for the body to absorb than the iron in meat. Lemon juice essentially unlocks it. So the glass of warm lemon water is not decorative. It is not a wellness trend. It is a preparation of the system to extract maximum value from everything that follows. If you are still with us, and we hope you are, please take a moment right now to like this video and subscribe to this channel. What we just walked through is not a trend. It is decades of convergent science, confirmed by one of the longest-lived physician populations on Earth. Share this with someone who needs it. Now let us talk about why the combination matters, because this is the part that even people familiar with each ingredient individually tend to miss. The oats prepare the gut, the walnuts feed the brain and initiate cellular renewal. The blueberries protect the blood vessels and enhance cognitive resilience. And the lemon water primes absorption for all of it. But beyond the individual effects, there is a broader principle at work here, one that Dr. E articulated in simple terms when researchers asked him to explain his longevity. He said, "I do not eat to feel full. I eat to give my body what it needs to repair itself while I sleep." That sentence contains a philosophy that most modern nutritional culture has completely inverted. Most people eat in response to hunger or pleasure, and they think about nutrition as something that prevents future disease. Dr. E thinks of every meal as an active intervention, a delivery of specific compounds to specific systems that are already working to maintain function. This is precisely what the research on centenarians in blue zones consistently reveals. The longest-lived people are not obsessed with diet in the way we typically imagine. They do not calorie count. They do not weigh their food. But they are consistent. They eat the same kinds of things, at the same times, in the same modest quantities, day after day, decade after decade. Consistency over intensity. Pattern over perfection. The cumulative biochemical benefit of 30 years of daily beta-glucan, daily anthocyanins, daily omega-3s, and daily vitamin C is not something any short-term intervention can replicate. There is one more thing worth understanding, and it is the piece that brings all of this together. Loma Linda's health outcomes are not solely attributable to diet. The researchers who have studied the community most carefully, Dan Buettner's team through the Blue Zones Project, as well as independent epidemiologists from Loma Linda University itself, consistently find that the residents live inside a web of supportive habits that reinforce one another. They have strong community ties. They observe a weekly day of rest that functions as genuine stress recovery. They maintain a sense of purpose into very late life. They move their bodies naturally throughout the day without necessarily exercising in the gym. But diet is the foundation, and within diet, the morning meal is the keystone. Because how you begin the morning determines the hormonal, inflammatory, and energetic baseline your body operates from for the next 12 to 16 hours. Start the morning with a blood sugar spike, and you spend the morning in inflammatory recovery. Start it with beta-glucan, anthocyanins, omega-3s, and vitamin C in a gut that has been primed with warm water, and you spend the morning building, repairing, strengthening. 96 years old, no significant illness in 30 years, still practicing, still sharp, still walking without assistance. That is not luck. That is a 30-year pattern of mornings. And here is the practical part, because knowledge without application is just entertainment. Tomorrow morning, before anything else, drink a glass of warm water with the juice of half a fresh lemon. While the oats are cooking, steel cut or rolled, not instant, because instant oats have a significantly higher glycemic index. Take out a small handful of walnuts and roughly a half cup of blueberries. Combine them on top of the oats when it is ready. That is the entire protocol. 10 minutes, less than $2. The same meal tomorrow and the day after that. You will not feel a dramatic difference in the first week. That is not how this works. This is not a supplement that creates an immediate effect. This is the slow, steady accumulation of cellular repair, gut diversity, vascular flexibility, and neurological protection, compounding quietly, day after day, the way interest compounds in a bank account you never touch. Dr. E did not become exceptional by doing something exceptional. He became exceptional by doing something ordinary, consistently, for longer than most people can imagine. If this changed the way you think about what you eat in the morning, subscribe to this channel, like this video, and make sure the notification bell is turned on so you never miss what comes next. There is so much more in this space, real science, real mechanisms, real answers for people who want to understand what is actually happening inside their bodies, not just what they are supposed to eat. We are here for that conversation. We hope you stay for it.